Hi everybody, happy Saturday. I'm KHOU 11 meteorologist Pat Cavlin here with a look at your nightly tropical update as we get closer and closer to the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. The good news, we're not watching a lot. The bad news is that we're not even at the peak or the halfway point of hurricane season, so we still have a long way to go, and I do think things will start to pick up in maybe not intensity, but I think we'll start to get a little more active here as we get into September and October. Right now, though, in the tropics, the only spot that we're watching is this area here that's highlighted out in the eastern Atlantic, right? So Houston all the way off towards the left-hand side of the screen. You got the Caribbean in here, and then this is the vastness of the tropical Atlantic. And you can see this batch of clouds here coming off the west coast of Africa. That's our next tropical wave to watch, and the Hurricane Center believes that once it enters this yellow shaded area, there's at least a 30% chance that something may try to develop. So I think the next 2 days here as we wrap up August are going to be quiet. Notice there's nothing really well organized showing up on the map here, but we do look to the west coast of Africa this time of year as the monsoon continues to see any tropical waves developing. And watch this area here. This is that spot that the Hurricane Center is watching that, again, has that 30% probability of developing. I think as we get into the first and second week of September, we're going to be tracking these waves moving off of Africa. This will be the one, I think, that we watch over probably the course of 10 to 14 days here. Once it moves off the west coast, it comes across the Atlantic here. And what you got to look for on this map are these concentrated balls of yellow and red. And that's exactly what we've got here towards September 9th. So we're going into the second week of September. So we're 2 weeks basically from where we are right now. That's one wave that we'll have to watch, especially as it starts to get closer to the United States. And then behind that, I think we'll see more frequency here in the waves coming off the west coast of Africa. So this part of the tropics will start to become a little more active, I think, as we go through the next 2 weeks. Right now, though, it is dead quiet. This is really impressive to see here. Again, late August to not have anything at all, no waves, nothing out over the tropical Atlantic, the main development region, which is the hotspot for development this time of year. Very unusual. That's the wave, though, that I was just pointing out. Looks very disorganized right now. Again, it's still over land. This is just a product of the monsoonal flow that happens over Africa between the months of June and September. Really even spills into October as well. But once this gets over open water, anytime you get a big complex of thunderstorms moving over warm tropical waters, there runs a risk of it becoming a more organized system. So we'll have to watch that as it moves over thousands of miles of open ocean. On our side of the world, notice the Caribbean also dead quiet. Nothing going on here. A lot of wind shear keeping this part of the world quiet. Now, once we get into the Gulf, it's a bit of a different story. We've got several complexes of storms here. These just on the west coast of Florida down towards the Keys. We've got more storms here firing up off the southeast and Atlantic coast. And then we've got our own thunderstorms that we had today across southeast Texas. Now, the reason I point this out to you is the same reason why I just showed you the tropical wave off the west coast of Africa. Anytime you get a big complex of thunderstorms moving over warm tropical waters, whether it's the southwestern Atlantic off the southeast coast, or whether it's the Gulf, you got to watch them, especially when they're tied to these boundaries, because that acts as focal points for spin, right? So the winds are coming in from the north on the north side of that front, and then they're coming in from the south on the south side of that front. And around these thunderstorms, they can kind of meet up and start to rotate, and that's where we get these systems that try to develop here. So even though this area is not highlighted, it's in our backyard, so we're always watching things a little more carefully here than we would something that's thousands of miles away. And as we put future track into motion, watch what happens here as we get into Tuesday. We start to see some broad circulation. Notice, again, the winds are coming in from the north and from the east, and then down here they're coming in from the south and the west. And so we have this broad area of spin, this large, elongated area of low pressure. And so I can see how in the next few days, maybe something weak tries to develop here out towards Florida, maybe out towards the Bahamas. Will it be an issue for us here in southeast Texas? No. And is it even highlighted by the National Hurricane Center right now? No. But these are just things that we're keeping an eye on here at KHOU. And I'm sure the Hurricane Center is keeping an eye on things like this as well. But no models really do anything significant or impressive with it. But just don't be surprised if we see another area pop up here as we get towards the middle of the week. again, we're getting close to the peak of hurricane season. That's September 10th. Today's August 30th. We're a week away, week and a half away from the peak of the season. That doesn't mean that things, we can just kind of, wipe our hands of everything once we get to that point. But it does mean that we are at a climatological or historical point in the season where we typically see a lot of activity. And I do think that by the time we get to mid-September, probably from mid-September through mid-October, we probably will start to see an uptick in activity in the tropics. Right now, though, things are quiet. There are no threats to the United States right now. There are no tropical waves that are over open water at the moment. We just had that one spot that's worth watching out in the far eastern Atlantic, and we'll have a lot of time to watch that to see how it evolves. But we're getting close to the peak of the season. Stay on top of the forecast. Stay with us for these updates every night. Make sure that your family's plan is set and ready to go if something were to develop. And that's pretty much it. I'm happy to report as we get into the last few days of August here, there's not a whole lot going on. So that's your tropical update for tonight, August 30th. We'll be back tomorrow with another update. And of course, we'll have the latest on the forecast here at home on the KHOU 11 News at 10 o'clock.